Again, I see him every 3 or 4 weeks usually, cleaning up a lot of trash on both sides of Onset Ave, starting just past where we have the intersection with Great Neck and Depot, Minot Ave, et cetera. And again, it's not, myself and my wife used to clean up on Narrows and Minot Ave for quite a while. It's a lot of work, and it's not easy dodging the cars trying to run you over at the same time you bend over to pick up trash. So I thank the gentleman very much for it, and someday I'll get his name and bring it out to the public. One thing that's come up, I think that needs to be just made clear for an announcement today is we had about 4 or 5 articles that were at the Attorney General's office. I'm not going to go through all of them. I would expect that either our Selectmen office or the clerk's office will take those things that have been approved and put them on the town website for people to know, but that's up to them. One of them has to do with the marijuana cafes. We asked for a moratorium for 1 year, not because we didn't want them or anything like that. It's strictly that the state had not really finalized how, when, where, whatever. They've done this to us before when we had the issue with the medical marijuana, and then all of a sudden the retail could have medical, and it kind of messed up our traffic patterns on Lower Main Street and caused issues for quite a while, and still does technically. So we're going to wait until we have clear, concise, correct information on how this is going to work, so we don't start it and have to make adjustments later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White, would you let Ms. Fuchs in? Would you raise your hand, Ms. Fuchs? And would you let Ms. Van Nest in? And Mr. Burrows as well, and Ms. Corbett, please raise your hand. Ms. Sandegate, I see your hand up, but I'm not going to be letting you in. I'm not really sure why you have your hand up. I'll look at your chat. Announcements from me while this is going on. I just want to congratulate Matt Underhill, who has been with us for, I think it's 29 years going on 30. He's our director of informational technology. I'm not even sure what we call it. Information technology. He has won for the 2nd year in a row a cybersecurity grant from the Executive Office of Technology, Services and Security from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And then it's an extremely important grant to have us receive. And I just want to say thank you to him very much. I also want to say thank you to one of our local restaurants, El Mariachi, put on a fundraiser last night and to benefit the Friends of the Wareham Free Library. And they've indicated that they would be willing to have fundraisers for other 501c3s and other groups in town. And so I just want to say thank you. It's clear that this community is a community that helps take care of itself. I would remind you all that spring sports registrations are popping up. Those of you with kids or grandchildren, make sure that you get the deadlines, because some of the rosters fill up really quickly. And let's see, we'll go to appointments for the Golf Course Advisory Committee. Mr. Burrows, you're here to join the Golf Course Advisory Committee. Could you unmute yourself and tell us why you would like to be on that board, please? You're muted still, sir. Got it.
Okay. When the committee was first,
can you identify yourself for the record,
my name is Jeff Burrows.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm trying to be a golfer. That's beside the point. When the committee was first formed, I was not in the state. I was down in Florida. I wanted to be on the committee, but I wasn't available at the time. So I started attending meetings just as a guest when they first formed. And I offered up my services if they needed them in the future. Well, apparently the future is now.
Excellent, thank you. Do any of my board members have questions of this gentleman? Please raise your hand if you do. Mr. Slavin?
No, just thank you.
Can I ask your handicap?
A lot.
Good. You're just my kind of golfer then. I'll accept a motion if there are no further questions or comments, Ms. Wertz.
I make a motion that we appoint Jeffrey Burrows to the Golf Course Advisory Committee with the term to expire on December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Recording in progress.
I don't know why that's being told me. I'm going to go for a roll call vote, please. I hear no other comments. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes, 500. Mr. Burrows, the paperwork for you would be in the Select Board's office on the third floor of Town Hall. In order for you to be sworn in, you need to take the ethics course, the open meeting law course, and to provide some certification, and they will let you know what that is.
Okay, I've already completed those assignments. I'm just,
Oh,
I hope to get there this week.
okay, great. So bring those certificates with you, sir.
Correct.
Thank you very much, and thank
Thank
you
you.
for volunteering.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, we have an individual who has been recommended by the Board of Library Trustees. I can't even do it right. And so, Ms. Fuchs, could you identify yourself and tell us why you'd like to be on that board? I'd also like to note that we have two of the trustees here to support the recommendation, and that's the second time that this board has actually asked to come to the meeting to physically help, to show their support for a recommendation for appointment. So thank you to Ms. Van Nest and Ms. Corbett. Ms. Fuchs.
Hi, my name is Larissa Fuchs. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm echoing. I'm sorry. I love libraries, and everything a library does for the community. This is my way of giving back. So I'm just really excited to be part of it.
Thank you. Does any of my board members have any questions of the lady? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, hearing none, I will ask for a motion, Ms. Wertz.
I make a motion that we appoint Larissa Fuchs to the Library Board of Trustees for a term to expire on June 30th, 2026.
Second. Second.
And you will note that there's a scrivener's error on the agenda. Thank you, Ms. Wertz. Is there any further discussion on the motion to appoint? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes, and thank you.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes, and thank you.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes, and thank you.
Ms. Wertz,
Absolutely, yes, and thank you.
and myself, yes, and you've joined a really interesting board. I've worked with Ms. Van Nest on another project, and she's really good.
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks so much. You know the same information that you have to provide the documentation that you've taken the open meeting law. And
Yes, I've done that. Actually, I went to the office today and I gave all the paperwork.
Okay, so the paperwork for you to be sworn in would be available to you tomorrow because you couldn't have been sworn
Needs to
in.
be signed, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Chiarucci, I don't see you here, but let me see if you are here. No. Okay. Then I will go to the continued hearing for the application from Pancaj Corp. Mr. Patel, would you raise your hand? And if you have somebody else with you, could they raise their hand as well so that Mr. White can see you and let you into the meeting, please? So it'd be Ricky Patel. Okay. Good evening. Do you have somebody else with you, Mr. Patel?
No, I do not tonight.
Okay, thank you. Could you identify, Ms. Wertz, may I have a motion, please, to open the continued hearing?
And as Ms. Whiteside said, I make a motion to continue the hearing for the application from Pancage Corp. DBA PK Liquors, 3074 Cranberry Highway for a seasonal packaged goods store all alcoholic license under the provisions of Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws for the year of 2023.
Thank you.
Second.
I believe your motion was to reopen the continued hearing. Am I correct?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to reopen the hearing? Seeing none, I will ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Mr. Patel, you're here. Thank you for coming back to see us. I
Thank you for
believe
having
that, all of the paperwork is now in order, and we asked you to sign some of the documents with an original signature because the ABCC won't accept a generated, computer generated signature.
Yes.
Do you choose to address the board again?
Yeah. So I just want to thank the board for having us again. Last hearing, we were understood that we needed a couple other things to be in in coordination with this town. Since then, we've filled everything out that we needed. We've worked with the Cassandra, and we're able to get everything in. And we're looking forward to opening a seasonal right where there was retail already. So we went through that process as well, to make sure that having a retail location there would be okay. And I know that was one of the bigger concerns last hearing. So we went through the process and made sure that that was cleared.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Patel? Mr. Slavin.
I just want for information to remind them that in Wareham, we have a ban on miniature sales. You're not allowed
Yeah.
to sell. Thank you.
Also known as NIPS.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions for Mr. Patel, I will accept a motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion that we could close the continued hearing for the application of Pancage Corp. DBA PK Liquors.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the hearing. Is there any further discussion on the motion to close the hearing? Seeing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
myself, yes, the hearing is now closed. I will now accept a motion.
I make a motion that we award or we approve the application from Pancage Corp. DBA PK Liquors, 3074 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, for a seasonal packaged goods store all alcohol license under the provisions of Chapter 138 of the Mass General Laws for the year of 2023.
And
Second.
hold the license until there is an occupancy permit.
Excuse me, I missed that note, but yes, to hold it until we have an occupancy
Thank you.
permit.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded to approve and to hold until the occupancy permit for the building has been issued. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I will ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
myself, yes. So it is granted and it will be held until the occupancy permit is issued by our inspectional services department.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I just want to thank the whole board for having us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. White, we now are going to have Lieutenant Michael Smith, Chief Walter Correa, Mr. Frank Evangelista. Please raise your hands. Mr. Manise is not going to be coming into the meeting, so it'll be Mr. Smith, Mr. Evangelista, and Mr. Correa. So Phil, we'll get to you after this. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. actually, well, would you let Mr. Chiarucci into the meeting as well, sir, Mr. White? Because his hearing is at 7:15 and I declare that it is 7:15. So we will do his hearing first. Mr. Smith, Mr. Evangelista, and the chief can stay in the meeting. And Mr. Chiarucci will propose his application for the renewal of his shellfish grant. Mr. Chiarucci, can you raise your hand if you haven't? Mr. Chiarucci? Okay, Mr. Chiarucci, Mr. White, would you let Mr. Chiarucci in? Thank you. Ms. Wertz, would you read the notice of the hearing, please?
Notice of the,
Yeah.
so the notice for the hearing is for the application for a renewal of shellfish grant W-1 for Philip Chiarucci.
So do you move to
Make
open the
I
hearing?
make a motion to open the hearing for that.
Second.
Motion made to open the hearing with a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion to open the hearing? Seeing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes, the hearing is open. Mr. White, there he is, Mr. Chiarucci. Mr. Chiarucci, could you identify yourself and address the board about the application for the renewal of your shellfish grant? We do have a map or a sketch of where the grant is located, as well as a copy of your application. So if you would let us see you and hear you, that would be great. Mr. Chiarucci. I can't see you or hear you, Mr. Chiarucci. Again, I still can't hear you or see you, sir. There you
Yeah.
are. I can see you, now I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself, sir? He's better at growing oysters than he is at running a Zoom meeting, sorry.
Evan, press the space bar.
Press the space bar, Mr. Chiarucci.
Hello. Can
There
hear me
you
now?
go. Thank
Sorry.
you. Could you
I'm sorry.
identify yourself for the record, sir, and let us
Yes.
know what it is that you're looking for?
My name is Philip Chiarucci. I'm looking to for a renewal of my shellfish grant.
Thank you. Do any of my board members have any questions of Mr. Chiarucci? Mr. Chadwick?
Just a quick and simple one. Do you do wholesale or do you go
Yeah,
out?
I only wholesale.
Okay. That was it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Slavin?
It's not a question. Phil took on this grant a few years ago. The results have been pretty spectacular overall. And wish we had more people in town who would do what he has done. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you,
Thank
Alan.
you. Any other questions or comments? I will let those of you who don't have this knowledge that at one point, Wareham was the oyster capital of the world, supplying oysters to New York City restaurants. I believe that's accurate. I
It is.
will accept a motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion to close the hearing for the application for renewal for shellfish grant for Mr. Philip Chiarucci.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the hearing. Any further discussion on the motion to close? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
Myself, yes, the hearing is closed. I will accept a motion.
I make a motion that we renew the license for the Shellfish Grant W-1 for Philip Charalucci.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion to grant? Seeing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes. Thank you very much. It is granted. Phil, I don't know if you have paperwork that you need to pick up, but it would be in the office.
Okay, I'll check in with the office.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a hearing for the reviewing of the license status for the Main Street Deli. And I'm going to have Mr. Bowen actually run the hearing, but I'd like you, Ms. Wertz, to make a motion to open the hearing, please.
I make a motion that we open the hearing to review license status for Main Street Deli LLC DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill, 182 Onset Ave, Onset.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to open the hearing. Is there any further discussion on the motion to open the hearing? Seeing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes, the hearing is now open. Mr. Bowen, if you would, sir, I talked with you about this earlier.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. I'd ask the board's clerk to read the notice of the hearing to the applicant.
and is that typically, Judith, what is coming off my agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir, I read a notice that you are here for a review for license status on Main Street Deli LLC DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill, 182 Onset Ave, Onset.
Okay, I believe there was a longer letter that went out.
Yep, hang on, maybe. Sorry. Bless you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen, are you talking about the letter that alerts the gentleman about the recently served alcohol beverages citation? And you'd
Yes,
like me to read that?
If you would, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dear Mr. Evangelista, we have credible testimony that you have recently served alcoholic beverages subsequent to the expiration of your seasonal license extension. Please see the attached investigative report. I'm not going to read the report. This letter will serve as an order to cease and desist serving alcohol immediately. Serving any alcoholic beverages without a license is in violation of Chapter 138 of Massachusetts General Law. A show cause hearing has been scheduled for Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, within the Select Board's meeting to address the issue of your unlicensed serving of alcohol. The information to join the meeting below is so forth and so on. And this letter is dated January 24th, 2023.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Evangelista, are you present?
Yes,
Are you speaking for yourself or are you represented by anyone?
I'm speaking for myself.
All right. You've heard the allegation against you. How do you plead?
Well, I wasn't there for this, so I'm guessing it happened, so I'm gonna have to plead guilty to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Lieutenant, you were present and made the observations. Could you raise your right hand and state as follows? I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please indicate whether you do.
I do.
Okay. Could you give a summary of what happened so that Mr. Evangelista and the board can hear it?
Sure. On January 16th, 2023, I was contacted by Chief Carrere regarding the Onset Beach Patio and Grill at 182 Onset Avenue. The chief had received information regarding the sale of alcoholic beverages at the establishment. He had also been advised that they did not currently have a license to sell alcoholic beverages. The following day, on January 17th, at approximately 2 p.m., I entered the restaurant. That time I observed alcoholic beverages advertised and displayed for sale. I ordered one draft beer and was immediately served that draft beer. The following week, on January 23rd, 2023, at approximately 2 p.m., I once again entered the restaurant. All previously viewed alcoholic beverages that were advertised remained. I again ordered another beer and was immediately provided that beer.
Mr. Evangelista, do you have any questions for the lieutenant?
No, no questions.
Okay, thank you. Board, at this point, we have a prima facie case. Mr. Evangelista, you've pled guilty to the allegation of the testimony that was raised by the lieutenant, to wit, serving alcohol without a license, your seasonal license not being in effect at the time of the sale. At this point, it would be appropriate for the board to close the evidentiary part of the hearing, and then you can hear from Mr. Evangelista as to anything he wishes to say regarding a possible sentence. And certainly if the chief wished to offer any commentary, it would be appropriate for you to hear that. So, Madam Chairman, may I suggest that you accept a motion to close the evidentiary hearing?
Certainly. Ms. Wertz, you're muted. You're muted.
I make a motion that we close the evidentiary part of the hearing for license review for Main Street Deli DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill.
Is there a second
Second.
to the motion? Any further discussion on the motion to close the evidentiary portion of the hearing? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin. You're muted, sir.
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes. The hearing, the evidentiary portion of the hearing is now closed. Mr. Bowen.
Madam Chairman, I believe at this point it would be appropriate for a motion to be offered to accept the guilty plea and to find that the lieutenant's testimony was credible.
I make a motion that we acknowledge the plea of guilty and that we have heard the evidentiary information from Chief Carrera
From Lieutenant Smith, and we accept it.
and from Lieutenant Smith, and we accept it.
Is there
Second.
a second to that motion? Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Mr. Slavin?
No, just scratching my head.
Yes, may I have a vote, please?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes. It's been accepted, sir.
So, Madam Chairman, I note that the agenda item as listed calls for review of the status as opposed to actually imposing discipline. What I'd suggest is that we allow the license holder to offer statements in mitigation regarding any penalty that you may or may not choose to impose, that the board take the opportunity to digest his statements, and that the matter be continued until your next hearing for an actual disposition. If you intend to take any disciplinary action, obviously, if you don't intend to take any action, then you could just simply wrap it up. So with that sort of advisory in place, I'd ask the license holder to make comments to the board and to allow himself to be questioned by the board regarding what he thinks should happen next.
Mr. Evangelista,
Yes, first I'd like to say thank you and good evening to everyone attending the meeting. I do take full responsibility for the actions at hand because I am the manager and owner of the business. Unfortunately, due to the timing of the situation and when it happened, I was not present, and I apologize. But the recommendation was taken immediately when I found out about the offense. As soon as I was served with the documentation, I also provided an immediate email to let you guys know that I took immediate action to not only reprimand and educate the staff correctly on what was supposed to happen, but also put up signage to let the customer base know that due to the parameters of our seasonal liquor license, we could not sell any alcohol, just to make sure we were covered, and customers also knew that we weren't able to do that because items were not removed from the floor in the timely fashion they should have been, as well as our video menus are controlled by a third party, which we could not get through to also accurately make that obvious to the customer base. So I do take full responsibility for those incorrections. They have since been corrected, and will not happen again, honestly. So I apologize in advance and hope that an understanding can be had. We did the best we could for the situation, and it will be corrected, and I will continue to be more on top of it going forward.
Do any of my board members have any questions? Please raise your hand. Mr. Chadwick, I saw you first. Mr. Bessie, you be next.
Two questions. You said, Mr. I'm gonna butcher this last name. I'm sorry. What is it?
Evangelista, it's okay.
Evangelista. You said, I read in your email that you said you were away. When did you leave for your vacation, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, unfortunately, the vacation was cut short. I had left in the beginning of the holiday season, so the exact date was December 26th.
Okay.
Notification was given to the staff before I left what was to be happening, because my vacation was cut short due to an illness in my family, and I was traveling back and forth from vacation to Florida to Massachusetts to Florida, and a lot of things got lost in translation. So things were not handled correctly, as I had stated previously, and I'm sorry for that.
Okay. Another question I have, and it might be for Lieutenant Smith, or either. Is there any violations for serving to minors from this establishment?
None that have been reported to us.
Okay.
The only violations reported are the two that Mr. Lieutenant Smith's read into the record.
Okay.
Mr.
That's all the
Bessie,
questions I have.
thanks. Mr. Bessie?
So just one question. I do frequent this establishment, not that often, but probably once a week or so. So the last time I was in there, I don't know the exact date. I mean, I could go back and look, but the last time I was in there, the establishment did have signs up that they were unable to serve alcohol due to the nature of their license not being in effect, but they still had alcohol present to patrons. Has that since been removed, or is that alcohol still sitting present for patrons to see?
So to answer that question as most accurately as I can, we have a storage issue at that location, and we cannot just easily remove it as just say throw it. The only option would be to throw it in the garbage. There's nowhere to keep it off site. So that's why we put the signage up. And again, it's reiterated at the register, which is the only point of sale at all for anyone to be purchased. It's not multiple opportunities for any customer to go in and just purchase at any register. There's only one register currently operating in the off season. And the signage is not only posted there, it's posted at the front door, it's posted at where the alcohol is stored on the left of the cooler, and it's also posted right at the tap. So there's no way anybody could miss that, as well as since the staff has been reiterated on what we're supposed to do going forward, that we would have this issue.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bowen, I'm going to ask that Mr. Correa or Mr. Smith read into the record the information received from Ms. Kelch,
As you wish.
please.
I can read that. After the two purchases that I made on January 26th at approximately 6 p.m., Detective Zena Kelch entered the Onset Beach Patio and Grill. That time she ordered an alcoholic beverage and was told by a staff member that they would not be able to sell alcohol to her. They did explain that at that time they did not have a license to sell alcohol, and they expected to have that license back sometime in April.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Slavin, yes, Mr. Slavin?
I would, since we're gonna make a decision till next week, I would ask that the board members, if they want to take a look at Frank's establishment, see where the liquor is, and whether or not maybe something has to be put up as a better barrier so people can't see it, but that's all. I think Frank's trying to do the best he can.
Ms. Wertz, no?
I mean, I've been in there, I've been in the restaurant several times. It's small and there's alcohol in a number of places. I was not there after the signs were put up. But I would say, Mr. Evangelista, hopefully whenever and however you get through this, that you find a way that should something have to be removed, whether it's alcohol or anything else, that you have a place to move it to until it can be brought back. That's the only word of advice I can give.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evangelista, are you registered to vote in Massachusetts?
No, I am not.
Are you a resident of Florida, sir?
I am currently a resident of Florida because I have a summer home there, and I am currently a resident of Massachusetts. I'm actually in the process of transferring my driver's license and my primary residence there to Massachusetts.
I believe that's the same comment that you made to us when you first applied for this license, sir.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I will accept a motion to continue the hearing.
Well, Madam
Sorry,
Chairman,
Mr. Bowen. Go ahead.
the hearing's closed. The motion would be, I move to
Yeah.
continue the disposition portion of the agenda item until our next meeting, at which time we will decide what action, if any, should be taken regarding the guilty plea. So moved, we'll cover it.
Ms. Wertz, is that your motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I believe he still has a hand up. I was just wanted to point that out.
Do you have something else to say, Mr. Evangelista?
No, I apologize if that's up. I'm not that
Okay,
good at
thank
this.
you.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Chadwick. That was a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, which would be to put this on an agenda at a future date to see what disposition we may or may not make. Roll call vote, Mr. Slavin.
I believe that should be next meeting, not future.
The next meeting, we are only doing one piece of business, sir, so it'll be at a future meeting.
Okay, do you want to set a meeting the one after the next one? Sorry to be fussy.
Certainly, hold on.
I believe these are the licenses start March 1st, do they not?
No,
What date do they start?
I thought it was in April.
April 1st, I think.
Is it April 1st?
right.
Okay,
So we
Thank
could
you.
put him on the agenda of March 7th.
that's good for me.
Is that
Yeah.
part of your motion, Ms. Wertz?
Yes, so be it.
And was that part of your second, Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Thank you. Now I'll go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Now, yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself, yes. It is continued. We will make a disposition on the 7th of March, which you will be invited to, Mr. Evangelista, if you choose to appear.
And,
Thank you very
and,
much.
Ma-
Good evening.
and Madam Chairman, I know Ms. Slaney will send a notice letter out to Mr. Evangelista, just reminding him of
Yes.
the agenda. Thank you.
Yes, I'll have her do that tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Evangelista, and good night. Thank you, Lieutenant Smith. Thank you, Chief Correa.
Yep.
We will
Okay,
now
thank
go
you.
on to item 7A. Ms. Quirk, would you raise your hand, please, so that we can have you do your presentation? We will be hearing a presentation and they've followed by a discussion regarding a proposed alternative energy committee, and Ms. Sherry Quirk will be presenting that for us. Ms. Quirk, do you have anybody else with you? And can you raise your hand, Ms. Quirk, please? Thank you. Ms. Quirk, I'll ask you to identify yourself for the record, and you did send us some information, but I would ask that you identify yourself and give your presentation. And
Sure.
thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. My name is Sherry Quirk. I don't believe anyone else is joining me, although there is a possibility that Mike King may chime in. I think he's in the audience as well. Just want to say thank you for having me back to talk about the Alternative Energy Committee. A group of us were here in October to talk about this committee. And we're back now, having received some guidance at that point on what you would like to see. What we heard last time was your guidance on spending money, which was not to, and using employees of the town, which was that we shouldn't, and that there are many priorities in the town, and that there was much on your plate. And so what we wanted to do coming back tonight is to present an approach that won't cost money, won't take up valuable personnel time, and which will help to deal with some issues that I think are becoming very important and would best be solved in the short term rather than the longer term. Two other people were present last time, Carl Schultz and Denise Wolk. Carl is in Africa on vacation, so he is not here, but would like to be involved going forward. Denise Wolk is recovering from an injury and is hoping to be able to be involved as well as we go on. I wonder if I could share my screen at this point.
Please, and Mr. King is not in the audience, Ms. Quirk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, can you see the presentation now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So what's changed since the last time that we were in front of you all, and what's bringing us back? There's several issues that are becoming more pressing. The first, I would say, and largest, is the decommissioning of solar facilities. And with as many solar facilities that have gone up in Wareham as they have and elsewhere, and will go up with increasing frequency with greenhouse gas emissions, ambitions going up and increasing incentives, the question really becomes, what is going to happen to all these panels when they reach the end of their useful life? Are they going to go into landfills? If so, where? Tens of thousands of modules in landfills. We did have one applicant before the planning board who proposed to put about 10,000 panels into the recycling center. And so there is some sense that we need to be looking at solutions. Now, you can say this issue is off into the future, not necessarily in front of us right now. But what happens if at the beginning of a project's tenure, technology changes, finances change, and the project goes out of operation at that point? What if that happens in the middle of its time? And these projects are set up as limited liability corporations, so they are not capitalized. They don't have a lot of capital backing them, but they may be facing very significant costs in recycling or otherwise removing the panels. And the question really is, who is going to be responsible for this payment? And it's, I think, become very pressing to the planning board to address this issue, because the time to take care of it as best we can is at the time of issuance of site plan review special permits. So the question is, what should we do to protect Wareham from these costs? You all know better than anybody else does that the Wareham budget does not need additional pressure to remediate large fields of solar panels. Now, this issue is being recognized as very significant in the renewable energy industry. with a lot of attention being devoted to it and questions about what it's going to cost, how these panels will be treated, whether they'll be considered to be hazardous waste, whether there will be recycling, how expensive that will be, and generally where they will go. We have this case and this issue in several pending planning board cases. I think in the short term, we may be able to get a handle on it. In the longer run, though, a really much more careful look is a really good idea. Second issue is on-site battery storage for the large ground-mounted solar facilities. This issue has come up where a battery that is located adjacent to a solar project is not only going to be collecting solar power from the project, but also buying energy off the grid and selling it back onto the grid. And the question is how this fits in to our bylaws, what the impact of this is on the town, what are the risks, and how this issue should be treated as well. Third issue is the general question of large battery storage. Now, this involves large battery systems buying power off the grid and reselling the power when the prices are higher or to provide other services to the grid. There's a very large project close to us in Carver, 150 megawatts. The state has battery storage goals of about 1,000 megawatts by 2025. ISO New England has announced that 700 megawatts of battery storage successfully bid into the capacity auction held a year ago. And Massachusetts looks to be very serious about increasing battery storage. But batteries are not risk-free. They pose concerns. The question is, can those risks be mitigated? And if so, how? And how will batteries be decommissioned? Because their useful lives are limited and they also pose concerns as waste. A final bullet, just to emphasize that the issues that we already have with solar, batteries, et cetera, are likely to increase. There are more incentives in the Inflation Reduction Act for battery storage and solar. And I've given you a link to a presentation by a law firm. I apologize for it. It will not improve your view of lawyers if you read it, but it does. And if you have insomnia, it will be very helpful to you then. But it really underscores how much incentives are going to increase. And in particular, there is an incentive for solar in environmental justice communities. So to the extent that Wareham is an attractive location for solar, although I don't know all the details of this, it may become even more attractive going forward. Now, for Massachusetts, all of these activities will be in furtherance of meeting very ambitious greenhouse gas reduction targets, 50% from the 1990 baseline by 2030, 75% by 2040. It's going to take a lot of solar and other means to meet those targets. So I think what this amounts to is we have a mix of opportunities and risks facing us. How will we take advantage of opportunities and how will we address risks? So what do we need from the select board? As I said before, no money, no staff. We understand that there are other issues that are competing for your time, but a few things would be helpful. First, just your confirmation that you see these as issues that are worthy of attention, worthy of the town looking into. And second, if so, where is a good place to establish a committee or subcommittee to take a look at these issues? Is it at the select board level, planning board level? Last time we talked about this, we talked about both with some thought that the planning board might be the right place. Now, there are different considerations depending on where it reports. I've been told that if it's under the planning board, only planning board members can be on it. And it would be good if we had a variety of expertise available. There are several ways to do that through public meetings, general meetings, et cetera. So it would be very helpful to get your guidance on what you think might be most effective. Now, this committee or subcommittee will have a very narrow and focused mission, very defined work product. It's basically to solve the problems that I outlined earlier, not to range far and wide, but simply to solve those problems with a very defined work product, being bylaws, other means of solving these issues. What's the timing? Realistically, not until after the upcoming town meeting. I think the preparation for town meeting will be consuming for many people. So getting started afterwards is probably the reasonable thing to do. And to aim for work product by the next fall town meeting, which I think is reasonably able to be accomplished with some rigor and discipline. Now, what to do until after town meeting? Would be good to identify some talent and to recruit some folks who are interested in working on this, and to see if they're willing to climb aboard on this. If I were to outline some areas that I think it would be helpful to have expertise or interest. On this slide, I've listed a number of them. There are certainly others as well. Really emphasize that it would be helpful to have the perspective of developers, the police department, the fire department, various town boards, environmental groups, land trusts, and others. Then with your guidance, we can go out and recruit, and we would really appreciate your advice and direction on this. And with that, I would ask if you have any questions.
If you have any questions, could you raise your hand so I can let you in? Mr. Slavin.
Good evening again. I've actually, just for public knowledge, I've had some discussion with Ms. Quirk on this issue as well. For my point, I was on two, what we call Mass Municipal Associations, legislative committees. What we do there is we take up different issues and actually testify before the Massachusetts House and Senate. Unfortunately, they only allow members now to be on one committee, and I was on two, transportation and the environment. So I had to give up the environment because I was more involved with transportation. Some years back, we actually did something like this, and where we basically set up a subcommittee, which with a planning board situation, you only have two members, because if you have three, it then becomes a quorum. And what we did was we reached out to different areas for people to come in and be ex officio or just outside the actual boards and committees of the town to ask for input and just put it together, and then came forth and brought it forth to basically the planning board. We did this with the sign bylaw, and we also did this with the TDI, which is a transfer of development rights. I would very much like to help with this because I have a lot of background and current experience. There is tremendous pressure from the federal government and from the state government to increase alternative energy. And they're putting incentives and programs in that are basically taking away a lot of our local rights and stuff is what we can and can't do. There's a lot of buy rights stuff coming through. There's not a decrease, but an increase in incentives. So I think this is important. This somewhere down the line may require actually having a separate full committee, which I'm a little leery about because we have a hard enough time filling committees that we have now. But if the planning board is willing to do the subcommittee and then reach out for people to volunteer to come in just to give information without any voting or anything else, that would really work out well, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chadwick, you had questions?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bessie?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Having spent some time on the solar bylaw study committee, I think the one thing that I would interject is that whoever or however many people it might be, it's a lot of work. It's not, it's not just getting together and meeting once a week or once every other week. There's a lot of research and study to be had when you're not meeting. So if it is something that does happen, whoever might be involved needs to know that it's definitely going to be a lot of time and effort put into it. Not 1 or 2 hours a week. It's very pressing. It's a very important issue. But whoever might be involved, if it's something that happens, just know that it's a huge commitment and something that is going to be super helpful and potentially, shape the town in a direction that it may end up in the future. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know when people first heard about this idea, there was a concern that maybe this was going to be a scientific committee where people were trying to invent new ways to generate renewable energy. And as I think people can understand now, it's very far from what's going on. I don't usually offer comment on a proposal like this since it's a policy matter, but I will hear and say that I strongly recommend that you do this. Solar, the law regarding solar properties is the Wild West. Recently, there was a gathering of a thing known as the Abstract Society, made up of real estate lawyers, where there was a lot of discussion about how wide open this whole question is. I think it's very important that people who are dedicated to this task look at the question and come up with ways to properly arm Wareham to deal with this quickly changing area. Let me give you an example. There's this whole question of lithium batteries and whether they are ancillary to a solar field or whether they constitute some primary industrial purpose. I won't offer my opinion on that subject at this point, but that is a very important subject that's coming up all across the Commonwealth. And it becomes a very important question in an area of the country where solar is really valuable only for about, solar generation is only valuable for about 6 months of the year. And you have battery storage during the fallow months. And there's a question of whether arbitrage is happening, whether power is coming off the grid and being stored and then being resold at times of higher rates and making money that way. So there are a lot of questions here. I think this committee could do an awful lot of good for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wertz?
Yes, I also, obviously feel this is critically important to the town. When I look at Sherry's initial presentation, one of the things that is, I think, so important is the breadth of people they're looking to have, types of expertise they're looking to have on the committee, or giving information to the committee, working hand in hand to make sure that their particular area of expertise is understood and handled to the best of the ability that the committee can. Because of that, because I know of the amount of work it took the last solar battery committee, I don't think that this would work really well if we have a committee of 2 with guest speakers, because as Ron said, there's a lot of work involved in this. And so I don't care where the committee would sit, as long as there are workable committee members that can help get this work done. And it's with what's happening, we all know what's happening. This area changes every 3 to 6 months. And half the time, we don't even know what's changing till after the fact. So what we do here, I think, is very critical.
Thank you.
Ms. White, I have a question. I'm
Yes.
sorry, our statement.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having firefighters on this, and the main reason being is solar panels on roofs are extremely dangerous to people in my profession. Multiple reasons being is you're adding extra weight to the roof, which allows for collapse and entrapment of firefighters. Also, the fact that if you shut off the main breaker and there's battery backup, there's still a high chance of getting electrocuted, upon many other things. So I would, if this group does come to fruition, I would highly recommend getting a lot of professional firefighters on there that can give you their points of view about these. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. From my experience, committees of 7 work. Committees of 11, 15, whatever, they're too unwieldy. But you can always have guest speakers who have been, recruited for their expertise. I've actually had that conversation with Ms. Quirk on a couple of occasions. So what I would ask for you, my board members, to do tonight, one would be to endorse the creation of a committee. And then we'll come back on, what did I say? It was March 7th, with a more specific lineup. And again, I have a question for you, Ms. Quirk. Are you suggesting fall of 24 or fall of 23 for an end date?
I was suggesting fall of 23.
Ms. Quirk, do you have wings?
No.
There's just no way.
I think a little pressure is good.
Wow. Okay. So that was a question I had. So my personal recommendation, and I've had conversations with Mr. Slavin about the number of people who should be on a committee, would be to form a committee of 7-ish. And to have Ms. Quirk perhaps redefine who maybe those 7 or 9 might be, but understand that you can always have people who pop in and help you with specific things. Mr. Chadwick's point is very well taken, but I'm not sure that a firefighter or first responder should be, other than really giving you information about safety precautions, that I'm not sure that's where I hear you think your committee would be going. I think I hear you saying that you would be suggesting bylaws and creation of safeguards for the town.
And I think part of one piece of the bylaws would be to determine what safety precautions the fire department in particular needs, because there is quite a bit of exposure from solar and battery, as he's indicated. But I think you're also right that this would not be a full-time occupation of a member of the committee. It would, someone could come in and advise us on those topics.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen, do you still have your hand up?
Oh, yes, Madam Chairman. I was just going to say that I think you're definitely going to want some level of participation from the firefighting community. That's going to be very important. How that participation takes shape, I guess that's probably up to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I would remind all of you that there are 2 fire departments in the town of Wareham. I just want to make that plain. Mr. Slavin?
Madam Chairman, just want to make sure that at least one of them get involved in this. Thanks.
I got that part. It's kind of like, who's really in charge of water bills, not the selectmen, select board. Mr. Slavin?
I think if this is going to be a subcommittee or the planning board, then there's no date required. If you're going to establish this as a regular committee, then there would be no date it would end either, because it's an ongoing project. It's not going to have a time-specific end, because this issue is going to continue to go up and down as we decide how we're going to generate energy over the next 20 to 50 years. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with that.
So Ms. Quirk, maybe you could come back on the 7th with a more definitive. Again, I would suggest making it not a committee of 2 or 5. I think 7, maybe 9, but again, understanding that you could ask for input from anybody and everybody. So I would ask for a motion from one of my members to endorse the establishment of the Alternative Energy Committee, and we will define it at the March 7th, excuse me, March 7th meeting.
So made.
Second.
The second, thank you. Excuse me. Motion made and seconded to endorse the establishment of such a committee. Any further discussion on the motion? I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
myself, yes. So, Ms. Quirk, what are you doing for breakfast tomorrow? I already know the answer.
Looking
Thank you
forward
very
to
much,
it.
Ms. Quirk, and
Thank you.
appreciate the time and energy that you've put into this and your pursuit of it. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
You too.
Could we have Mr. Dara and Christine Sullivan, Wayne Dara and Christine Sullivan, would you please raise your hands? Oh, and Mr. White, would you let them in, please? And Ms. Quirk will leave the meeting. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Dara. Could you identify yourself for the record?
Sure. Wayne Dara, President, Community Opportunities Group, the Town of Wareham CDBG Consultant.
Thank you. I know that you sent us an updated suggested breakdown for the CDBG grant. The total to be $1,650,000. And if you would just touch briefly on those categories. I know that my board members got it probably earlier today.
So last time I met with the board, we had a amount of money under the social services set aside that we had not yet designated for any particular organization. The comments that came back from the board was they would like to see additional funding for GATRA. So we have since received a proposal from GATRA. So they are now included in the social services along with Damien's Place and Turning Point.
Thank you.
And the other two activities are a housing rehab program and the replacement of some original construction windows at some of the Redwood Park buildings.
And that amount is?
It's approximately $300,000.
Okay. And the housing rehabilitation program, which is an ongoing program through the CDBG grant?
I've budgeted $665,000 for that. That would be 14 units at $47,500 per unit.
Okay. And then the bulk of the grant would be taken up by administrative costs. Is that correct?
Right. The administration is approximately 25% of the total grant.
Thank you.
You're
Are
welcome.
there any questions, Mr. Slavin, obviously?
I apologize. My sound cut out for a minute. Were we putting some money back into the GATRA account?
Yes, $30,000, sir.
They've been added for $30,000.
Thank you. I apologize because I couldn't hear what was said there.
Sorry. Any other questions? Mr. Chadwick?
Is there, has there been any talk about any money set aside for any of the youth programs, or have any youth programs applied for it yet?
We currently have $30,000 of unexpended grant money with CYE, which kind of fell into place after the Boys and Girls Club shut down. So they have been the recipient of that money that was initially targeted for the Boys and Girls Club. They haven't started providing any services through the grant yet. And the fact that they haven't spent $1 yet, and their experience with the CDBG program is very limited, we didn't feel it was, it would be a good move to put more money on their plate until they've shown us they can spend what we're already allotting to them.
And that's money from a prior grant, sir.
Correct.
Correct. Any other questions?
Um,
Jesse?
So I guess I just want to follow up on that, on the youth services side. Not in full understanding of how all of these funds work, and these are things that I'm kind of learning every day about the different, aspects of what we have available to our town. Is any of that, are any of those funds available to like a Wareham Little League or a girls softball or the soccer program or any of those other youth programs that we have in town, or is it specific to like a CYE program that we have in town, or is that something that other youth organizations that we have that are nonprofits are able to apply or figure out a way that they could potentially tap into any of these funds?
Okay, a couple of questions there. One is the concept of trying to provide grant funding assistance to some of the town leagues was raised previously. I reached out to the Department of Housing and Community Development, who oversees the grant program, because I wasn't sure exactly where that fell in terms of eligibility. And after a few back and forths with our program representative, we were informed that there didn't appear to be an eligible way to spend money on those type of programs. I think another question you were asking is there a pool of funds that people can apply for? And the answer to that is no. The money needs to be designated for particular organizations and activities in the grant application. We can't just ask to set aside a pool of money for future programs that are unidentified at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Let the record show that Ms. Sullivan, Christine Sullivan, is also with you, Mr. Dara. Okay, if there are no other questions, I would ask for a motion, please, to authorize move that we accept the recommendation of the allocation of funds from the CDBG grant. That would be the first motion, Ms. Wertz.
So that's it. So that's the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the allocation recommendations. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yep.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Now I'd like a motion, please, to authorize the chair to sign the grant application on behalf of the town.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
myself, yes. Mr. Dara, you're all set for me to sign whatever you need me to sign.
Excellent. I'll probably have something to you on the end of this week or beginning of next week.
Okay,
Again,
remember
the
that,
applications are due on March 3rd.
right, our offices are closed on Friday, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care.
Nice to see you.
Take care. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Ms. Rice, Sharon Rice, the Council on Aging Director is here. Mr. White, would you let her in, please? I've asked Ms. Rice to give a presentation about the activities of the COA. She is relatively new to the position, and I met with her the other day. I know that several of us have actually met with her to say hi or bring coffee and donuts. I think Ms. Wertz is actually ahead on the coffee and donuts run. But we'd like to hear from you, Ms. Rice, about what it is that you do and what it is that we should know about and what our citizens should know about that is available through the Council on Aging.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate the taking up a little bit of your time today. I'm going to start off a little bit on a soapbox, and I promise I won't stay there for very long, but just wanted to give you kind of a rundown of the situation for many seniors. And as Chairman Whiteside said, I am fairly new to Wareham, and it seems that there's a larger percentage of seniors here than in many municipalities, particularly the ones that I've worked in. I've heard anywhere from 30 to 38%. And I know a large number of those are low-income seniors. And with everything that's been happening lately, they are really feeling the squeeze. The prices of medications, food, utilities, everything just seems to be skyrocketing, and they're caught in the middle. I spoke with a man today who his wife needs medication, and it was $2,600 for a month's supply. I've been contacted about homeless seniors. We have a man in our community who's 100 years old and he's homeless. An 86-year-old woman came to me and she's looking at homelessness in the coming months, and she's trying to find a part-time job because she just knows she can't afford the rents out there. So people are really struggling right here in the community. Fuel assistance, the applications are quadruple what they've been in years past. And we all know that the cost of food is just outrageous. So the role that I see, the major role that I see the COA playing in the community here is one of advocacy. So we are traditionally, the COA here in Wareham has really provided help with fuel assistance, bus passes through the GATRA and Community Development Block Grant, medical transportation. But some of the core services that other COAs provide, applications for food stamps, for example, or help with services at home and things like that. We haven't been doing a lot of that, which is something I'm working hard to change. So right now here in Wareham, we're actually on the lucky side. If you need home services, if you're an elder in the community and you need services in order to stay in your home, the waiting period in Wareham is 30 days. So if you need help with laundry or daily care, you have to wait 30 days roughly for someone to come in your home to help you. In Plymouth, it's 90 days. So we're actually in a better spot than most, but it's still really tough for a large part of our senior population. I know the town administrator isn't on this meeting today, but he had asked me to report on a few initiatives that I've been working on here. And it kind of dovetails nicely with this conversation. And it relates to food insecurity. So my predecessor, Missy Diziak, had started a program with the Greater Boston Food Bank, where once a month, the truck from the food bank comes, brings a box of shelf-stable food that will probably, I would say, probably feed you, if you liked everything and ate everything, probably for 2 weeks. And there's a small amount of produce that goes with it. When I started 4 months ago, we had 22 people on the program. We now have 46. So that's a pretty significant increase in a very short amount of time. We have just entered a partnership with the United Way. They received a community development block grant for food delivery. So we're helping 20 under or low income seniors to receive a box of produce and shelf stable food every other week, February, March, and April. So that has started. And then the third week of March, the 24th, we're starting a veterans mobile food pantry here. We're partnering with the Cape and Island Veterans Center out of Hyannis, and they will be inside the COA on Fridays every other week, offering shelf-stable food, meat, dairy, to area veterans. So we're really happy about that. They will move outside once the weather gets warmer. That's a great service, but it is limited to veterans. And I'm very excited about another program we've just started. We had our first visit from a farmer on February 10th, and it was a great success. Recipients for SNAP, which is the food stamp program, there is a underutilized and really wonderful program called HIP, which stands for Healthy Incentives Program. And basically, if you are a SNAP recipient and you have a household of 1 to 2 people, you are entitled to $40 worth of free fresh local produce each month. And that number increases depending on how many people are in your household. The problem is you can't go to Shaw's, you can't go to Stop and Shop, you have to go to a farmer. So we found a farmer, and the farmer's coming here once a month, and she's part of the HIP program. So she was here and maybe even last week, 2 weeks ago. She had wonderful things like salsa and breads and vegetables and honey. So it was really beneficial for our seniors and for the farmer. And it's open to anyone. So you don't have to be a senior, you don't have to be a SNAP recipient, but it's just a great way to get some healthy vegetables into your diet and help with the food insecurity. One of the things we're looking to do, given the resources that we're working with, is to partner with various agencies here in the community. So we're working with the Salvation Army. I've recently joined the Wareham Hub Group, which is a social services agency, and they focus on the Wareham community and help each other to fill a need, whatever the need may be, and they kind of do case studies and whatnot. So I'm very excited about that. And we're working with Turning Point and All American Assisted Living. They are very eager to work with the community as well. So, the focus, we do programs, we do lots of fun stuff, and that's great. But I see that we need to kind of shift a little more in the social services direction. The last thing I'll actually mention is we have just received a grant. We are part of the South Shore. Oh, I'm sorry, I've lost my screen here. South Shore Elder Mental Health Consortium. And so starting this fall, we will be working with second-year MSW students at Bridgewater State College or University, and they will be providing free mental health counseling to seniors on a weekly basis. And included with that, they'll be doing support groups and workshops and educational programming to bring these free resources to our seniors. So, I'm looking at where areas we can continue to expand and kind of gone for the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And hope 6 months from now to be talking to all of you and having lots more of progress to report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments, Mr. Slavin?
I just want to thank Sharon. I've been over there a few times.
Did you bring donuts?
No, I'm not allowed to bring any kind of food.
I didn't make that rule.
Yeah, see, I'm on a diet. It's called seafood diet. Just seafood and eat it. So I started originally with missing the age-friendly community, which we did the initial piece of. The reason being, of course, was that it allows us to go to foundations, which has grants and stuff, which is not available unless you're at this age-friendly piece. And we're working to get this done and finished so we can work on it. But what really makes me simply happy is that we're taking a facility that, it's been back and forth with the school taking over and everything else. And it's really great to see what the Council on Aging is taking and how well they're using the facility and all the programs that have been added. I don't think anybody realizes how many programs are back and available. And I can't thank new director Sharon Rice enough for her initiatives and everything she's doing. It's not an easy job. Most of us seniors, like myself included, we're kind of stubborn and don't make changes easy. And I just basically say that we'll do everything we can on this board to make life better for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate
Anyone
that.
else? Mr. Bessie? Ms. Wertz, you next.
Yeah, I would just
Mr.
say,
Bessie, after Mr. Bessie first, please. Go ahead, Mr. Bessie.
Okay, thanks. So I just wanted to go back to something, Sharon, that you had mentioned as almost one of the first things that you had mentioned was, just recently talked to one of the seniors that had medication that they needed to pick up that was substantial in cost. I spent a little bit of my my management life working in the pharmaceutical industry, and that amount of money that you're talking about, that's what we call the gap in insurance. Once you hit a certain level of insurance, you have a gap that you have to fill before you get back to the other side of the bridge where your medications come back down. But there are programs out there. They're not easily found or easily defined. I would like to at some point come in and meet with you and gather you some of that information that might be helpful in the future for anyone that might come with that issue. It's unfortunately, the insurance companies don't make it easy to find. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're never going to find it. But it's all too a familiar story with not just seniors, other people that are on, state funded Medicare, Medicaid, things like that. There's always that gap that you hit in your year. And unfortunately, most times when you hit that gap is when people fall off of the medications that they're taking. And sometimes it is a bad turn, and then other times they figure it out. But I'd really like to get with you at some point and share some of that information that I think would be a useful tool for our community, as we do have a large number of seniors in this community. And I think that might be, it's a small thing, but could be very big for, several senior families in this community that we can help, bridge that gap and at least try to lessen it so it's not as much of a financial burden for them. And I will bring coffee and donuts.
Excellent. I would love to take you up on that. That would be so helpful. Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Wertz?
and Sharon and I have talked a few times, and I just wanted to give a little bit of insight on some other things she's doing. I mean, every time I walk into that hall now, there's usually somebody else presenting something or talking to seniors about something else. And when I brought muffins the other day, I didn't even know the district attorney was going to be there. And every seat at every table in that place was filled. The DA was talking about, being concerned about being ripped off through social media. And there were people from either other towns here to listen to that. And I've not seen that I've seen good turnouts there before, but something like that, Sharon, was really incredible. And then she and I've had a couple of conversations also about the fact that the citizens, I have not been involved in focusing much of what I know directed specifically to seniors. So we're talking about, say, the Fuss and O'Neill materials, et cetera, and showing the YouTubes and to the seniors, because they're going to vote and they know exactly what's gone on for so long. So I really thank Sharon for having that awareness of the broad awareness of what these citizens need and want to know outside of what they need physically and emotionally as well. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chadwick? No, okay. Have you partnered with Damien's?
I'm sorry, could you
Have you
repeat that?
partnered with Damien's Food Pantry?
No, I haven't. I know that many of our seniors go there,
Right.
but I have not reached out to them.
It might be a good idea, because you don't have to live in Wareham to take advantage of the programs. And again, the Y has, I would call them grocery days as well. You probably know that. Yeah. And most of the churches in town have food pantries. I guess I would sum up my my brief visit with you and what I've just heard is, how can we help you?
Well, the easy answer is staffing. It's a struggle. Right now, we have a formula grant from the state that pays for a part-time outreach worker. She works 3 hours a day and sees 2 seniors, has 2 appointments a day. So she is overwhelmed in a town of, with this size, with the demand. I see seniors as I can, juggling a lot of different things. I am trying very hard to bring some awareness. We had Bernard Pigeon come in to speak to our seniors about how the finance committee works. We have Chairman Whiteside coming in a few weeks to talk about the select board, helping us let our seniors know what's going on in the community and how they can advocate for themselves at the ballot box, I have to say is a big thing. And just listening and taking the situation seriously. I don't mean to imply that you don't, but it's hard. You've got a lot of things competing for limited town funding and limited bandwidth. And, the seniors aren't always the loudest. So just being able to talk to you folks and the support that I've received from the select board is great. And I appreciate that.
Good. Do you prefer muffins or donuts?
I prefer donuts.
Sorry. Would you like to come back from time to time and talk with us?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love to share what's going on here. And as I learn more myself about the community and, just what the seniors need, I'd like to pass that along. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from Ms. Price? No? Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for
very much
having me.
appreciated. Take care.
Bye-bye.
I don't see Amanda Cobb, but she did send us a bunch of information about what should be recycled, what shouldn't be recycled. Oh, are you SIVC, Amanda? I don't know. Who is SIVC? Can you identify yourself, please? Ah, what a girl. Thank you.
It wouldn't let me change. It wouldn't let me change my name.
Okay, that's fine. I asked Amanda Cobb to come and present some information. She sits on the, I'll call it the dump committee, but she's also on the recycling committee in Wareham. And I think it's really important for people to know what you can throw away, what you shouldn't throw away, and what other opportunities are available to our citizens in terms of helping green the planet. So, Ms. Cobb, if you would identify yourself and hit the road.
Yes, I am Amanda Cobb, and as Ms. Whiteside mentioned, I'm on several trash-related committees, and I'm also a volunteer at the Wareham Recycling Center on Plymouth Road. And I'm going to be very brief because it's dinner time for probably everybody, including me. We all know what should be going into the recycling bin, or most of us do, which is glass, aluminum, plastic food containers, not black ones, don't ask why, it's a long story, flattened cardboard boxes, paper, etc. What we might not know is what should not go into our recycling bins, be it recycling for the town or actually at the recycling center. And that is probably because we're not really being given very clear guidelines. We haven't actually received any very specific instructions from the town or the state. And also it varies by region. For example, you can throw out your milk container in Western Massachusetts, but not in Eastern Massachusetts. Again, don't ask why. And it changes from time to time, like they just instituted a ban on textiles and mattress disposal in trash in November of this year in Massachusetts. So I am putting together a sort of guide for what things that we might be tempted to throw out into the recycling bin, but we shouldn't, and some alternative places you can dispose of them. And I'm actually working on as a formal thing that would go on our various Facebook pages, go maybe on the recycling page of the town website, etc. But that is work in progress. So I'm just going to go through very quickly things that should never go into the recycling bin, but unfortunately end up there a lot. Food waste seems obvious, but people do it. Yard waste, you can compost it yourself. You can take it to the municipal maintenance 2 Saturdays a month. If you have a sticker, you can keep it in your yard. What the heck? Textiles, that includes bedding, pillows, clothing. Basically, should go in the trash if it is not usable, should be go in the bins, drop bins at the schools and places like that if it is usable, or donated if it's very usable. And I'll get to some donation options in a minute. Styrofoam, including polystyrene food containers, foam egg cartons, definitely go into the trash. Same with plastic packing peanuts into the trash, or you can take them to our friendly recycling center. Light bulbs, fluorescent bulbs, not in the recycling. Regular light bulbs go in the trash. Fluorescent you can take to the recycling center for absolutely free. Wire hangers, not in the recycling bin. I actually take mine back to the dry cleaner when I'm done with them, and they are very happy to have them. No lithium batteries, thermostats, electrical switches, take them to the recycling center. And some stores such as Staples and Best Buy will take certain electronics. You can take computer parts and pieces to, I believe Staples here in Wareham takes them. Anyway, you can call and verify. The recycle center takes some things, some for a fee, some for free. Here's a really weird thing. Cash register receipts, even though they're paper, should never go in recycling bin. Stick them straight in the trash. Same with photographs. Glittery wrapping paper. I know, don't ask. We don't make the policies. We get a lot of toys and tools and things like that that come to recycling, and we can't take them, donate them. So the other thing is plastic bags, one of the worst offenders. And I see people on my little street that have their whole recycling bin full of stuff that is bagged in plastic bags. No. But I mean, we haven't received any directives. So what are alternatives to all these how am I supposed to get rid of all this stuff? Basically, a lot of things are welcome at thrift stores and consignment stores, such as St. Vincent de Paul and Buzzards Bay, or any number of consignment places, or just places that you can donate. Various churches have their little thrift stores. I take some stuff sometimes at the end of a particularly big shift at the recycling center. I drive over to Savers with all the stuff that we can't accept, and they take a lot of it and they sell it. I mean, at least it's staying out of the trash and the landfill. Big Brother and Sister is another, Big Sister is another one. They will actually pick up. They're in Wareham at least once a month, and you can find their date and set up an appointment on their website page. There are many Facebook groups: Buy Nothing Community in Wareham, Mass, Cape Cod Virtual Yard Sale, Wareham Townwide Yard Sale. Just person to person. You have to deal with, getting them to the people who need them or want them, but hey, again, it's out of the trash. I'm a member of freecycle.org, which is not Facebook, it's a regular website. Nationwide, I'm a member of 4 or 5 local groups. Wareham has its own, Middleborough, Carver, Plymouth. You have stuff that you're giving away that you don't want, people come and pick it up for free. And the other thing for clothing, there's a local organization that is relatively new called Waltz Mobile Closet. It is a woman who basically does not have a storefront, but she drives around things in her van to places like Turning Point or United Way or other nonprofit organizations. And basically people who need clothing items, some bedding and things like that, will come and go shopping for free. And they have a donation bin at the Y, which is very active. And now they have several donation bins at other locations along the South Coast. And she has a very active Facebook page called Waltz Mobile Closet. And she's a wonderful person doing all this for basically free. The last thing I will say is I'm a big fan of the recycling center in Wareham, the one on Plymouth Road, which is across from Atlantic Boats. If you haven't been there yet, you ought to go check it out. It's quite lovely. That it's all run by volunteers. People are very devoted to it. And it's open just 2 days a week, Wednesdays from 1 to 3 and Saturdays from 9 to 1. But in addition to all the things that would normally go into your recycling bin, such as glass bottles, cans, etc., cardboard, and so forth, we serve a lot of people who don't have recycling at their apartment buildings or condos or mobile homes. So they pack up their car with all these items and they sort them and they bring them to us. And we put them in these big roll-off bins, and Harvey Waste comes and picks them up every so often. It's pretty well organized. I'll give you a brief list of what we take. Sharps, i.e. needles. There's a special drop-off bin for that. Fluorescent light bulbs and lithium batteries you can drop off for free. There are bins all, for you to sort your glass, plastic, paper, and cardboard, all for free. Returnable bottles and cans, that actually helps fund the operations of the center. So if at all possible to have them clean and even pre-sorted, that's wonderful. Some of the volunteers drive them to the places where you can have them counted, and they receive money for that. So that's a great benefit of that. There are things you can drop off for a fee, and I won't go through all the fees, but we're updating our fees now, and this will go on the town website as well as the Facebook pages. But flat screen TVs, no other kind of TVs. Tires, car tires, truck tires, car batteries, paint, electronics, metal. We actually take packing peanuts because there are people who come in and want them. So we collect them for those people. We buy and resell tumbling composters for your garden. And those are $50 assembled, $60 assembled and $50 unassembled. And that also helps fund the center. We have a very active swap shed, sometimes too active, where people bring household goods. We are setting up some parameters because some of the most outrageous things end up there. And basically it's so small that people bring large furniture items, and if it can't stay outside, it does not get, we can't accept it. But people can also come and take things for a nominal donation, say you need a new vase or whatever. We have a very active book shed that has also exceeded its available space, but we partnered with a couple of individuals and one organization that sell books for various causes. So we've been able to keep things kind of moving through. Again, people can buy books for a ridiculously low price there. And then two other things that we have going on. One is that one of our members set up program with Trex. Trex, the company that makes decking, and they basically make fake plastic things out of the plastic that's donated. So if we collected 500 pounds of plastic bags, clear and clean plastic bags in a 6-month period, which we did, we would get a Trex bench, a 48-inch bench, which we did get last December, and it is coming soon to the center to be displayed. And we are raffling it off for benefit of the center, and very reasonable price, $5 a ticket or 3 for $10. So our new program, which we hope to get a second bench to raffle off, is going now through July 15th or 14th. And you can bring your clear, clean plastic bags, and somebody actually weighs them and takes them to a center, and then we log it in, and we will get, I'm pretty sure we will succeed in getting another plastic Trex bench. And the other thing I want to say is that there's so much information out there. We don't have it all. If you're ever in doubt, just Google recycle, put in the item. There's a gazillion websites and newsletters you can sign up for. It's a little overwhelming, but the best thing that I have found is recyclesmartma.org, the Massachusetts recycling sort of clearinghouse for information. They have a thing called a recyclopedia. And if you, on the front page of recyclesmartma.org, the recyclopedia, you type in the thing that you're wondering about, and they tell you what to do with it. And I will say one more thing. The rule of thumb is if you're not sure if it should go in your recycling bin, it probably shouldn't. But do check the recyclopedia. Put it in the trash if you must. And one very last thing, we are always looking for committed volunteers and committee members. And people come and sometimes they just volunteer for 1 out of the 2 hours on a Wednesday. Anytime helps, and it's a lot of fun. So thank you. And I'll let the select board know when my little resources guide is ready for prime time, and we can decide how to get it out to the masses, because we all need to be educated about this. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? I didn't know that you couldn't put black plastic.
I didn't either, and I've been doing it for years, and there's
Yeah.
some complicated reason about the way it breaks down or doesn't, and or the sources. I mean, as you know, I visited the operation at Harvey, formerly ABC, their recycling center, and there are people who stand on a production line for 10-hour shifts. They look like they have hazmat suits on, and they're covered with plastic gloves and, covered to the nines so they don't get contaminated with all the junk that is coming through there. And their job is to pull off plastic bags, textiles, toys, like pup tents, you name it, the stuff that comes through that has come out of somebody's recycling bin. And the guy said that by 9 o'clock in the morning, he has to stop the machinery because there's so much textile, pillows and bedspreads and bed sheets that are jamming up the machinery. And that is the reason why Massachusetts has stopped taking textiles. But people say, oh, well, there's 2 bins here, so it's not supposed to go in my trash, so I guess it must go in the recycle bin. And that is definitely not the case. So anyway, like I say, we're all still learning, and then they changed the rules. But on a case by case, house by house basis, we can definitely do a better job of helping keep the planet clean. So, and if any,
Go ahead.
if anyone ever has a question and is on Facebook, I have sort of been managing the Facebook Messenger part of the Wareham Recycling Center page. So feel free to send me a message, and I'll usually be able to answer within a couple of hours to a day. We get a lot of people saying, what should I do, or where should I bring this thing? You know, we're trying to help the community. So.
Thank you. Ms. Wertz?
So, Ms. Cobb, I want to thank you because I'm going to be your first and number one fan. As you're going down your list, it's like, OMG,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm very conscientious about what I do for recycling, and I'm very conscientious, very wrong, evidently, in a lot of areas. I do have one question that maybe people on this panel know the answer, but I moved full-time to Wareham probably a half a year before COVID hit. In the state I lived in before, we always took old medicines to the pharmacies to destroy or recycle. And I've brought them up here to 3 pharmacies and they say they don't take them. What do we do with old medicines? You're not supposed to put it in the water. What do we do with that?
At one time, the police station had a drop off, but it wasn't necessarily any time, wasn't it? A particular weekend or something?
It just was sort of a once in a while they did it.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to try and find out. And I do know that in general, they say obviously don't put them down the toilet.
Right.
I have heard all kinds of things depending on the type of medicine that you smush it up in kitty litter, or this is going to sound awful, but dog poop, so that it's not consumed by anybody or any animal. But I don't necessarily think that's a good long-term solution, and I'm not recommending that. And you know, there are all kinds of other things that that we should know about. You know, it's very hard to reach across the town and get coordination with other departments, but to the extent that that's possible, I'm going to see if there's anybody that is willing to set up a medication donation center. I mean, it takes personnel, and then they have to have a way to get rid of it, is the problem. And of course that costs money. The only other thing I do want to say is that the recycling center, you do not need a Wareham sticker for that. I know that may not always stay that way. We hope that it does. And that a lot of people are very religious about coming there because they don't have any other place that they can get rid of their stuff, and they just want to do the right thing, which is wonderful. So anyway.
Mr. Chadwick and then Mr. Bessie. Chadwick first.
I might be able to answer that question for you, Ms. Wertz. I'm not sure if we do it in this town, but I know in some other towns there is red drop boxes where you can drop off hypodermic needles, you know, insulin needles and stuff. And what I've heard the recommendation is to do is remove your name from it, drop it in those boxes because they're locked. And what happens with all that stuff inside is it goes to a huge incinerator.
To your point, Mr. Chadwick, we do have a Sharps box there, but it doesn't take medications. But it gets a lot of use because there, as far as I know, there's no other place. Maybe there is at the hospital. I'm not aware of that.
Thanks, Mr. Bessie.
So there's actually a really great tool that you can use. If you go onto mass.gov, there are businesses that are registered with the DEA that take back prescriptions. And just a quick search, the Bourne Police Department has a drop box. The Barnstable Police Department has a drop box. Brewster, Chatham, Dennis. So there's a lot of different places depending upon where you live. Sandwich has one. I'm just trying to see, just CVS used to have them, but they've since kind of stopped their recycle program. New Bedford has a ton. I mean, I know that's not super local, but if we're talking about, so the closest to us in Wareham, just from what I'm seeing, would be the Bourne Police Department as of right now. But there is also, so you can go to DEA, you can go to the DEA website, you can go to mass.gov. There are different programs available for the recycling of drugs that are no longer needed or expired. So they're out there. They're not as easily as accessible as they used to be, where, like I said, CVS used to have drop boxes. You could just go in there and they'd have a box right next to the pharmacy, drop your pills in, no questions asked, just drop it and go. But there are programs out there. You just have to do a little bit of research. But for the folks here in Wareham, right now, your closest spot would be the Bourne Police Department, for that. But definitely something that I think, as a town, maybe we can find a way. I'm not sure what the legal process is to be able to be registered to take that back. I'm sure there's a lot of, I don't want to say red tape, but it's probably not just, hey, come bring your prescriptions to me and I'll go deliver them to the nearest place. So, but definitely something I think that we should look into as a town to find a way to, maybe lobby CVS or a Walgreens or something like that to say, hey, why don't you have it? We need to have this. But there are places out there that will take them. You just have to travel a little bit to do it.
Thank you. Ms. Cobb, I really appreciate. Alan, Mr. Slavin?
Let's make life easy. We have a place in Wareham. It's called the Wareham Police Station. They have a bin there for that. They've had it right along.
They still have it?
Yes.
Okay, that's.
Thank
good
you.
to know.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay, so Ms. Cobb, thank you very much for your presentation and the information. I certainly learned that I got to go through my trash and bring out the black things.
Well, you're most welcome, and feel free to reach out anytime you have questions, and, appreciate everybody trying to do the right thing.
Thank you so much. Have a nice night.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Ms. Wertz, I would accept a motion to accept the donation from the Police Association, Wareham Police Association, for their They Didn't Shave fundraiser. No, you're muted. The Wareham Police Association had a no shave fundraiser, and they grew some wonderful facial hair, and they were able to raise $1,000. And what is your motion, please?
I make a motion that we accept that donation from the bearded policeman for $1,000 to the Council on Aging.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept on behalf of the Council on Aging. Any further?
Can I interrupt
discussion?
real quick? It's No Shave November. That's what it's from. Just so you guys have it correct.
Oh,
Got
well,
it.
it just said no shave fundraiser. Anyway, thank you very much. Obviously, it's not November, Mr. Chadwick. Why are you continuing to no shave?
It just doesn't grow up there
I
anymore.
see. Okay. Motion made to accept with a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
The semi-bald guy votes yes.
Mr. Bessie,
The semi-bearded guy says yes.
Mr. Chadwick.
The
The
bald
hairless
guy.
guy says yes.
Okay, Ms. Wertz.
The girl with the glasses say yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I say yes too. 500. Thank you very much. There's no 48-hour business. Mr. Sullivan is not with us this evening, so we'll go to liaison, initiative reports, and board comments. Mr. Bessie.
I have none. You heard from the recycle tonight, so you got a pretty in-depth inner workings of what that looks like. So that's been done.
Thank you. Mr. Chadwick.
Not at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin.
Oh, you're gonna love me tonight. Okay, let's start off here. The MOP, which is the organization at Serpent that handles the road projects of Southeast Mass. Wareham has 2 on the books. The first one's the Route 6 Swift Beach intersection realignment and light. Mass DOT is actually responsible for the whole project. Wareham has no responsibilities financially or anything for it. It's all done by Mass DOT. And they're looking to possibly move it back because they're behind schedule to 2025 instead of 2024. I basically at the meeting expressed my concerns that I wasn't happy about the change, and if at all possible, I'd like to see it stay in 2024. The shared bike path, which is on hold due to the taking issues that we have, has now been moved to 2028. So that gives us some time to decide where we want to go or not. But I need to find out also from the town, probably from Ken Buckland, is whether or not we've actually applied for the roundabout at the intersection of Minot, Great Neck Depot, and Onset Ave.
I believe we have.
I don't have it anywhere at all in the state request list yet
Okay,
as of today. So I have a concern that it's actually been filed.
okay.
Next is the bridge on Route 6, Wewianick, is scheduled for this coming year. And also with that project, sometime within that year will be the road from there down to at least past Cromeset and Suffolk, possibly as far as close to the Swift Beach Road for a redo as well on Route 6. I did attend the FinCom meeting last week where they basically discussed all the different boards and the other boards, but the different departments, their needs and their budget and stuff. And I thought it was really well done. The only problem I have, and I think we all have, is there's a real lack of institutional knowledge on a lot of these particular departments and how they function, how things flow through and what they really have done in the past, or et cetera. And I think we have to find a way to somehow process this information and have it available to the actual, like a FinCom, et cetera. There were some things that were stated that, it was completely wrong for how the particular organization runs. It's just my feeling that there needs to be something there. It's something that Trisha's complained about all the time, is the lack of communication. I think this is an issue that needs to be looked at. I'm going to mention a couple other things. I'll probably get myself in trouble as usual, but I think the Board of Selectmen has to take a more aggressive approach on some of the issues in the town of Wareham. At the end of the day, when something goes wrong, it's basically our fault at the end. We're at the top of the chain, and when something goes wrong, you don't blame the department, you don't blame an employee. We're responsible. And the sewer situation right now is one of those things which we need to get involved. In which way, I'm not sure yet. The Board of Selectmen, before anyone in this group, actually, because they turned over the responsibility to the Water Pollution Control Facility to an elected sewer commission. At that time, they had hired someone to do the consulting work to get an EDU rate set up. It's been 9-10 years, hasn't been done yet. We have a severe issue in Swiss Beach that is deteriorating quickly, and there's some meetings going on with the EPA shortly, but we have a serious issue with that as well. And again, the problem is that there's not proper communication with the residents. We need to bring small groups in of residents when we're going to do something that affects them directly. When we don't, it comes back and creates a lot of problems. And I'll leave it there. It's not that the sewer commission's not doing the job. It's just that things are not getting done in a timely fashion, and it's creating some real problems for the town. There was basically a discussion last Thursday about a $36 million expense for fixing a bunch of things in the sewer plant, and the information given out was if the SRF funds and et cetera would pay for it all, and the fact of the matter is it's not even close. So again, our sewer commissioners are getting wrong information from the people running the facility as well. I think we need to revisit Mr. Sullivan's plan that we voted on as far as the reuse of buildings for different, for police, council on aging, the community center. And we're going to have to see what we come up with. The information I have so far is that maybe they're going to consider looking at the police station, cutting it back to say $25 million. And my real concern is in 1971, the town of Wareham built a police station. The person who's in charge of the police back then had 9 policemen. The police station was barely adequate for the 9 policemen. I believe a year or 2 years later, they hired 6 more. At that point there, that station became inadequate for what they had. And that's all the way back then. And I just want to make sure that we don't make the same mistake and do this for the least amount of money possible and see in 5 years or less that the station's already inadequate and can't be, expanded or anything else. It's a mistake that we should not make. We need to study history so we don't make constant mistakes that we do now. And I think I've made enough comments for the night. Thank you.
Ms. Wertz?
Well, I'm making the comment that if all that work is finally going to be done on the Route 6 Weewianick Bridge, I need someplace to live while they work on that street in Cromessets so I can get out of my house.
We'll get you out.
Perfect. Other than that, I just want to go back and just give a little liaison insight. And I say it at this point in time versus in the beginning of the meeting because it's already passed. But I went to Angela Dunham's Historical Society meeting. I think it was just even last night, and they had a presenter there about the Masons and locally and their involvement in the Wareham history and development, etc. It was, if you're a history freak like I am, it was very interesting, but that was a meeting that the whole room was filled again. So it's very interesting to see what our citizens are coming out and attending and what they're interested in now that maybe COVID is not keeping people so bundled up.
All set?
That's it.
Okay, I just have a couple. I also attended most of the FinCom meeting. And other than discovering that those chairs in that room are possibly the most uncomfortable known to man, it was interesting to hear most of the presentations. I think that every one of us needs to understand that we have a certain dollar amount to spend on an annual basis. We have not yet received the state cherry sheet, the state reimbursements, and Mr. Sullivan has to balance the budget before he can bring it before the town meeting. I would suggest that we understand that the select board, we are not in charge of any of the sewer issues at all, period. In fact, my memory, and I was on the board at the same time, is that one of our current board of select board members and a couple of other people chose to remove the authority of the sewer commissioners from this then select board and create a separate board. That board is an elected board. They do not report to us. We have no control over them. We can have conversations with them, but we are not in any manner, shape, or form in charge of any of the programs that they have, that they've proposed, or that they have not proposed. I just want to make that clear. I also attended the Council on Aging meeting this morning at Ms. Sandagate's invitation. It was really interesting. Very active group of elder people, if you want to call them that. They have some great ideas, reinvigorated, I think is what I would say. And I was very pleased to be able to answer some of those questions that Ms. Sandagate allowed me to answer, which were, they were good questions. And I will be going back and doing a presentation to them, I think March 8th or something. I'm not even sure of the date, to be honest with you. Anyway, I want to again thank all of the people who volunteer for this town, and there are several. I've been attending a lot of the committee or board meetings. Some chairs are more comfortable than others. I mean, the chairs that we sit in, and some of them are not. But we do have a very dedicated group of people who work on behalf of the town. And I want to say thank you. I don't think we say thank you enough. We complain from time to time, but they are doing the best that they know how. And they are doing so unpaid, as we are, on behalf of the town. That's the end of that. So Ms. Wertz, I will accept a motion to approve meeting minutes, please.
I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for October 24th, 2022 and February 7th, 2023.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 2 sets of minutes. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes, 500. They are accepted. Is there any other business to come before this board? No. Mr. Slavin?
Before I give the magic word, I just want to reinforce that I know completely what the rules are and the regulations as far as the Board of Selectmen versus anybody else. The problem is that I want to recognize the town that this Board of Selectmen does recognize there are serious issues, and somewhere down the line, we're probably going to be responsible somehow. And with that, I make a motion to adjourn.
second,
Motion made and seconded. It is not debatable. I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Hell, yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Absolutely.
Ms. Wertz,
yes.
myself, yes. And I'm watching Chadwick's face.
Yeah.
Mr. Chadwick,
No.
410, we are adjourned. Good night, Wareham, and thank you very much.
Good night.
Gentlemen.
Hey, good ball, guy.